with Medina. We had some issues this morning, some apparent misconceptions by security and peace officers who still firmly believe that I need to get consent from VIA to film in public, even though that is their policy. I've received a confirmation email from VIA stating that I can film in non-restricted areas. So again, I'm back out here tonight, and as I explained to Officer Cook the other night, that would have been a non-issue about me coming back out here on a regular basis until VIA pushed things. Their officer with the light out, dispatch also pushed things and kind of irritated me about that. I called several times today trying to speak with the supervisor about the dispatcher's behavior and officer's behavior. Was told they'll put me on hold for a supervisor. I asked who the supervisor would be. They said, we're going to transfer you, and they transferred me to a dead email or voicemail multiple times. Called back a couple of times. Got the typical public servant BS answer. So, again, I am on VIA property. It is for use by the public. It is a non-restricted area, and I have actual written consent to be here on the property. We'll see how this rolls. Ah, crap. I left my vanilla cherry Coke at home. That's a shout out to USA 210 Cop Watch. Was going to bring my cherry vanilla Coke out here and ask the officers if they're going to beat me for having this Coke versus just a regular cherry Coke. But while some may consider that baiting, I find it dark humor, and I excel in that, or at least I feel I do. But again, dark humor is like food in Africa. Not everyone gets it. You can be offended by that comment, but again, it is dark humor. So don't get your panties up in a wad. Now, you'll see a gentleman riding his bike through the plaza. That happens all the time down here. They have stopped people from dancing in the plaza. They've stopped people from praying in the plaza. They've stopped people from doing other things in the plaza as well. But in general, if you're out here in this plaza and you're not creating a disturbance, you can do basically anything you can do on a public sidewalk. Even though it is VIA property, you do have to follow their rules. But go look up their rules if you have any questions. So, I'm heading down towards the smoking area. Typically, the guards will hang out down in this area when they're not deployed. They will hide in that building as well. I see one inside the transit area building right now. I'll walk in there and determine what's going on. The transit authority does follow federal guidelines requiring masks, and I'm about to ask this officer why he's inside here without his mask on. How you doing, officer? I'm doing good,
Great.
Sorry, what's your name?
Abbot, like the governor.
Okay, gotcha, Officer Abbott. Just curious,
Curious kills the cat. You don't be curious too much.
hey, that could be perceived as a threat, but I know it's a joke. Thank you. Just curious, VIA falls under the federal guidelines for requiring
I'm not gonna answer
masks.
any questions about you. So if you have any questions about how the bus routes work, then I'll answer those questions. But other than that, I have to refer you to a supervisor.
Okay, well, can you get a supervisor here to answer why you're not wearing a mask?
The Says I'm walking through the building, sir. Says I'm away from computer, I'm sitting in the building. Okay? So I'm not, I wasn't
So
sitting, I'm walking through.
if I walk through, I don't have to have a mask
I'm
on.
walking through.
Okay,
sitting-
thank you. Officer's Abbott's answer was, if he's not wearing a mask because he's walking through the building is acceptable, is not acceptable to the public. VIA follows the federal guidelines saying if you're on public via transit property in restricted areas, you should have your mask on. And again, officers have gone through there and told people multiple times that they are required to have their masks on, and they often do that without wearing their masks. While the officer may be correct that he's just going through the facility, it's ironic, again, that an officer can go into the same area that requires people to wear masks and not have their mask on. Just like it's ironic that today, VIA's photographers out on this location chose to film me. And when I filmed them back, decided they would voice a complaint to VIA Security. And when VIA Security came out and talked to me, I'm like, yeah, not a problem. They're filming in public. I'm filming in public. Then VIA Security, he's on his phone right now, by the way. He's probably trying to get guidance on how to handle this situation. But VIA Security, we had a good, pleasant conversation, and then Sgt Poore came up to me afterwards and then told me, here's a card. If you want to film on our property, you need to call this person. I said, I don't need to call this person. Your policy already dictates I'm allowed to do that. Unfortunately, when you do things that I do, you better cross your T's and dot your I's, or you will get into a bind somewhere down the road. So I actually spent the day trying to contact the appropriate people with VIA and get that done. I did receive an email saying I was correct that I can film in non-restricted areas of VIA. That basically means that unless they have a specific sign up saying it's restricted, that I can film. And again, what this comes down to is security officers telling one person they have to have on their mask while they're not wearing their mask. I mean, they may not see the irony in it, or they may not see how the public perceives that, but as a citizen, I expect things to be equal and across the board. Just like I explained to Sgt Poore today earlier, I said, I don't need your permission to do this. I will contact that person. I'll make a story of it. I'm actually down here tonight making a story of the same issue. Hold on just a second. You need a light? Yeah, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm filming. I just don't want to get you on my film. No, you're good.
Thank you.
So again, I'm down here at VIA. One of the issues with the VIA Central Hub is they do have a lot of foot traffic, other things that do come up. While I'm not saying they don't need security, what I am saying is that the security guards need to be professionally trained. They have peace officers who are licensed peace officers in the state of Texas who don't know the laws, don't know policies, and they have issues. Down here I see a security guard walking with the guy with his camera on. I'm not sure where they're going, but sorry, I'm going to zoom in on that. Oh, this is the same gentleman from earlier that I filmed that complained about me filming him, filming people in public. So I'll be back. I love this right here. This is the same gentleman who is filming people in public who complained that I'm filming him filming people in public. He works for VIA, and he's discussing that with the two security guards right now. So I'm going to actually go up and engage them. How you guys doing tonight? This gentleman was filming earlier. He made a complaint with security about me filming here. Just letting you know. No,
I mean, I don't have a problem with you filming, just don't bother people.
no, I wasn't bothering him earlier. The reason I'm bringing this up is he was filming people in public. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. That's
Well,
I'm
you-
not telling you anything.
No, exactly. You and I both know that. One of your sergeants came down and told me that I would have to get that person's permission to film in public, which is against VIA policy. We already know I'm allowed to do it. I'm just making sure that everyone down here knows that that person has already confirmed what I told that sergeant earlier. Again, I understand people's concerns sometimes about people filming in public. However, when a VIA employee makes a complaint against a citizen for doing exactly what he's doing and tries to get someone trespassed off the property for filming in public, which is what he was doing. I didn't even know he was a VIA employee at the time. I'm just like, my story was actually about.
You wanted that?
Yeah, I'll keep that. My story earlier was actually about during the daytime, VIA security is always good about people filming in public, and he was doing it. I didn't know he was a VIA employee at the time. Later, his partner went over and complained to security over there. Your officers approached me. They know who I am. They know I'm a public rights guy. They know I do similar to what I was telling you earlier. Hey, if you're in here, shouldn't you have your mask on? It's about public accountability.
Well, my thing is, as long as you're not sitting down in there, and if you're just walking right through, I'm not going to ask you about having a mask on.
Hey, I'm not going to dispute that. I mean, you were polite about it. You weren't confrontational, and that's why I left. I'm like, okay, that's what he said. I'm not going to argue that. My thing is, other officers have walked through there and told people without their masks on that they will arrest them for criminal trespass if they don't leave, if they don't put on their mask. And I'm like, hey, the dude told you to put on your mask. Put on your mask. Just cooperate. But my point there is that if under the federal guidelines people are required to wear their masks on buses or in public enclosures that fall under transportation authority, then everyone should be under the same standards. And the same with this guy out here who's filming. I understand he's with the survey crew and working for VIA, but when he has the audacity to complain to security that another person is filming him, filming citizens, and try to make it an issue, I go, do you not see the irony here? I mean, I'm sorry, I know this is your job, but you don't have any extra rights. You can't sit here and film me and then go, oh, the guy filmed me back, I'm mad about it, I want him arrested for it. I mean, that's, to me, is exactly why people like me do what we do. And I spoke with your security earlier, and your sergeant came out and he told me, I need this person's permission to do what I'm doing. And I told him, no, I don't. I have your policy. I know your policy. Look it up online. I know I'm right, but I am going to contact the person. And I've got the email from her telling me as long as I'm not in a restricted area, I can film. And one of my issues about that is we both know you have auditors who come down here and you guys handle auditors differently than you handle other people. You say certain areas are restricted and certain areas are not. So when I'm told I can go into non-restricted areas, this is all non-restricted. And if I cross the street into that parking lot over there, some of your officers have said that's a restricted parking lot. So I'm asking you as a transit security officer, can I go film in that parking lot?
I don't care, as long as I hang out.
Okay, so you're saying it's not a restricted lot?
There's no signs posted, so it's not restricted.
Exactly, there's no signs posted?
It's not restricted.
Not a problem. I just want to make sure that you don't perceive it as a restricted area and then I get jammed up for doing what I know I'm allowed.
If you're walking around, that's fine. Just don't make it like where it's suspicious, you know?
No, I got that. And the same, what about the lot right next to it where you guys park your personal vehicles and police officer vehicles? That's not a restricted lot either.
It's not restricted either.
Okay, so that's not a restricted lot. I brought this up with VIA because they've told people it is, and I've informed them they need to post signs if it
I
is.
mean, if you're walking through it, that's different. But if you're hanging out, it may cause concern.
I can understand hanging out may cause a concern. The loitering laws in Texas are without, intent or whatever. Obviously, I'm recording. I have intent. I have a purpose to be there. So I'm just confirming with you that you're not telling me I cannot go into those areas.
As long as you're not hanging out, like I said, as long as you're not going to hanging out, then I'm not going to mess with you.
Okay, well, I do appreciate your time. Thank you for being polite. I don't recognize you. I'm down here all the time.
Yeah.
My name's Tori.
I met you once before.
Okay, most people who do what I do don't choose to identify to peace officers or security guards for a reason. I'm not like that. I will approach officers. I'll talk to them. My end goal has always been the same, and that's making sure public servants are accountable and that things like what happened earlier today are not
If you
going.
have a complaint, you can always call 362-2020.
Yeah, I did that earlier, and they keep referring me to a deadline.
That's the way. That's what we're told to refer you to. Is that if you have a complaint, because right now, like, it's not just not rude or disrespectful, but you wasted the breath because we don't handle that part. All right. So
Well,
if you complain about the employees, you go 362-2020.
I've got that. From a person in the public's perspective, just giving you my views, when we do call those complaint lines and they get pushed into voicemails that no one responds to, or I called dispatch, for example, the other night about a vehicle with a headlight out, a VIA vehicle, and they said, we'll have a corporal come down and talk to you in 30 minutes. And no corporal came out. I talked to the peace officer here on site. I said, hey, you know when the corporal's getting here? He said, I don't know what you're talking about. Called dispatch back. They said, oh, they told us to tell you to call the complaint line. And I said, wait a minute. Why didn't you call me back and tell me that? I've been waiting here 30 minutes. And she's like, well, and she made up some excuses. But again, from the public's perspective, when someone makes a complaint to an official, we expect something to be done, whether it's a report or anything else, just like the headlight that was out in that officer's vehicle. Officer Cook that I notified, he could have just got on the radio and said, hey, officer, your light's out. You had another vehicle there, vehicle 24, he could have switched the vehicles on. Instead, it's always about, well, it's not our problem, it's not this, it's not, and it's like, look, 90% of what I do is fixing public concerns. And yes, I will push, and I will push boundaries, just like being told earlier after I was here legally and being told by a sergeant that I had to contact this person to be legally permitted with what my First Amendment rights tell me I'm already allowed to do. And I told him, no, your policy says otherwise. And he said, well, you still need to call that person. And I did. Go ahead. So that ends that interview with that officer. Again, my interview with him started with him being in the building that they require people to have masks on. He wasn't wearing his mask. He simply stated as long as he's passing through that building, he doesn't need his mask on. I don't believe that that's actual or factual. I don't believe it's appropriate, but since that's what he said, that's what he said, and I'm not going to pursue that beyond that. At the same time, I have a right to be out here doing what I'm doing, and he's respected that, so I give him kudos for that. These guys are all very paranoid right now of the fact that public auditors are going to make issues of the inappropriate actions that the officers have taken. And we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to film down here within our legal rights, and we'll continue to expose the inappropriate actions of Via Metropolitan Transit Authority. When they decide to get on board and follow policy on a routine basis and stop harassing people who are filming in public, maybe that'll back off. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll find out. So, in the meantime, we'll cross the street over here where these guys are.
No.
So this individual here is the one whose partner complained to security about me earlier. He was cordial with me, but he gave me a really dirty look if you look at that video. I'm waiting for him to finish this conversation with the transit security guard to see if he wants to talk about that or not.
No. No, solo yo. Sí, hay policía. Si van a hay policía, hay un seguridad y un policía. Cualquier cosa, deben de ir.
And he's taking another picture again. I don't want to interfere with what he's doing, and I don't want to interfere with the conversation he's having with the security guard, but I will give him the opportunity to explain his concerns earlier and why he felt that he's entitled to film people, but people aren't entitled to film him. And again, you see right where his camera's focusing on the other riders for Via. So again, I will continue to film my public interest. You have a security guard who is walking around with the person who's filming in public, who apparently is under contract with VIA or has VIA's consent to do what he's doing. He's doing it in the behalf of VIA. It is a matter of public interest because it's on public property and they're doing it for some reason. VIA asserted earlier they're doing a survey, and there's not a problem with them doing a survey. And as you see, he has key to VIA property, obviously has authorization to go into this restricted building. While I don't have authorization to enter that restricted building, and I will not, he does, and he can film in there all he wants. Again, I have permission to film on all publicly accessible areas of VIA property. That is not a publicly accessible area. Again, proof he is a VIA employee. He's locking the door behind him, and the security guard is monitoring him as well doing that. Now, some people would call this baiting, but it's actually the opposite. I'm reinforcing the fact that after this individual's partner called security and had security come over and inappropriately tell me things to intimidate me from doing exactly what I'm doing now, even though they were explaining I was in my rights, they implied that if I didn't get permission, they could arrest me. And that implication alone is reason enough for me to be out here tonight, reinforcing that I was in the right, I'm continuing to be in the right, and I have the right to do what I'm doing. How you doing, sir? Do you want to have a discussion, or?
I got work to do.
Okay, I got you. You got work to do. That's
Thank you, though.
No, not a problem. HPP 3750. He's been polite, he's been cordial, but again, he is a VIA employee. The fact that he complained, not directly him, but his partner complained that I'm filming in public and caused an issue for me, means that I'm going to document who he is, what vehicle he's driving, and that he is a VIA employee, so that if in fact in the future he does tell another person or call security on another person for filming in public, that it's documented. Again, we the public do not need his permission to do what the First Amendment gave us rights to do. He can choose to call security just like a private citizen out here can do. And as I stated earlier today, the female that was with him that was concerned about me filming went and called security. And security came out, we discussed things, there was no issue at all. And then they decided to escalate that for whatever reasons by having an officer come out and insist to me that I needed to call this person and get her permission to do, and I'm sorry, the focus on that's not good, but the name is Rachel Benavides. Permission to do what the First Amendment gave me a right to do. So, kind of boring follow-up. For those of you who are like, oh, we want to see, you get beat down by a cop. I'm not that guy. If officers get too belligerent or whatever, I'll walk off. I'll pursue it another day. Again, I'm pursuing the issues that I've had here, and I'll continue to pursue those issues until my point is clear. For the auditors who have been abused down here, I apologize. I can only do so much for you. But again, public property, you heard the guard say that. It's a non-restricted public access area. And now, if you've already been given a criminal trespass warning, that's a little bit different. If I were you, I would fight that in court. Good luck on that. That's a hard thing to do. I'm in the process of getting one removed that was unlawfully issued to me. It is what it is. But with that in mind, anyone else who comes down here, this lot here is open to the public. And again, even if you are not riding a VIA bus, you can come out here and film. It is a non-restricted VIA public access area. Okay? That's critical to understand, that it's not a restricted access area. It may be their private property, but VIA's own guidelines state that you can film in public on their property, on any publicly accessible property that VIA has, including buses. And their guards and officers continually push that envelope, and we need to push back on it. We need to push back and push back and push back until they realize they're wrong and they stop doing that. At the same time, we don't need to come out here and bait them. We don't need to do things that we don't need to do. And again, when I say, they can consider me following this guy baiting, no, absolutely not. I'm simply telling them, yes, I have this right. I confirmed it. You told me to leave earlier. I already told you, no, you can't do that, but I will contact her. I'll make a story of it. And this is the story I'm making of it. Unfortunately, this probably won't look good for VIA either. What would have been a good story was for that individual to call me, discuss it, apologize in person, have that officer call me back, apologize, and state he knew that I was right, that whoever told him to contact me and give me that card and tell me I had to do that was in the wrong. But again, I asked that officer, who told you to give me that card? And he said, oh, it's just our policy. And again, the officer is implying by giving me the card and saying I need to contact that person for permission, that I am not allowed to film without that person's permission. Unfortunately, a lot of people will be intimidated by that tactic. A lot of people will cave and give up their rights to do what I'm doing right now. Now, I am within 20 feet of this public bus shelter. I was about to light a cigarette. That would be a bad thing. I'd be violating a city ordinance. So instead, I'm going to walk over here and on a city sidewalk, outside of 20 feet of the public bus shelter. And again, the public bus shelter is defined by overhead coverage. If you're out on a public street and there's a bus bench, that's not a bus shelter. You have to make sure you let them know that if they tell you that. You say, where's the shelter then? This is a bench, it's not a shelter. Now, for any other auditor who's out here watching and has an issue with via Metropolitan Transit and wonders about other policies that they have, you ought to go over to Wonderland Mall. Go to their bus stop there and look at where their designated smoking area is. And take your measuring stick and measure how far it is from that bus shelter. These are the same guys who will tell you if you're walking down a public street that they can trespass you because you walked by a bus shelter or a bus stop while smoking, and yet they place a smoking area, a designated smoking area, within 20 feet of their own bus shelter. Imagine that. Again, I point things like that out. I notified VIA about it. That may have changed. I notified them about that 3 months ago. So maybe they did do something. And when I say I notified them about it, I notified the guard on duty, and I said, you need to forward that to your supervisor. And he said, oh, okay, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's up to you. You've been notified. I don't care. The fact is that one guard will come out and tell you, well, you're smoking in a designated smoking area, but you're within 20 feet of that, so it's a city ordinance. And at that point, you go, okay, have a officer come out and tell me about that. And then you go, when SAPD gets out there, and you say, okay, it's a city ordinance, and via Metropolitan Transit Authority insists that they don't fall under city ordinances. They insist they don't have to follow city codes or ordinances. So, which is it? Can't be both. And for the real reason I'm down here tonight, though, didn't come down here to give them grief. Came down here to look for the one-eyed bandit, the via police vehicle with one light. Hopefully they did correct that after all the complaints that I made. I do see, and remember, that officer gave me permission to come onto this lot, said it wasn't restricted. Other officers will say it is, but it's not posted. This is PD 22. I don't know if this is the vehicle with the headlight that was out the other night. Its registration does say 322. So it has been registered. Hopefully, again, the inspection stickers, as you see, it's an exempt plate. Well, maybe you can. It's kind of dark out here. It's an exempt plate. It's 1384935. That means that they don't have to pay the county taxes for their plate renewals. However, they still have to obey all the safety requirements for vehicles in the state of Texas. And again, exempt plate 1204806. It's via truck T178. It's listed as a security vehicle. Registration is 322, so it's up to date. These other vehicles are private vehicles. I'm not going to photograph them. I don't have a need to do that. However, I could because they're in an open public area, but I'm not going to do that. Again, when I say I could, those are the types of things when I say if officers push issues, I push back on. And I say, I can do it, and I'm going to since you made a point of it. There's no reason for me to do that right there. The individual who drove the one car, he made an issue for me earlier. Well, his partner did, not him specifically, but they were talking and they were in cahoots. And then you could see him talking in the background with via security the whole time while Sgt Poore was talking to me. You know damn well that he's the instigator of that issue and that he thinks he has more rights than other people because he works for VIA. No more rights than any other citizen. Right now I'm filming the Bexar County Jail there in the background. It's well lit up. There's a train track between me and Bexar County. You see the barbed wire fence here that's set up is set up with the barbs preventing you from entering railroad property. That fence was designed to keep people out of railroad property, not vice versa. So you have to ask yourself, who installed the fence? Doesn't really matter. A lot of times, fence companies, when they install things, they're not always clear on the directives. I mean, I've seen fences before with the wire pointing the wrong way and just laughed about it. But again, when you look at things like that, for example, if you walk over here and you see a similar fence, now you see this fence over here was clearly designed to keep people coming from the railroad tracks from encroaching on this side. And again, that's by the direction of the barbed wire. And the other property was acquired by VIA. And before that, that wasn't their concern. So that fence is probably a very old fence. So here you have vehicle 225 VIA. It's a hybrid. Yeah, 523 is a valid registration inspection. Not an issue there. C4 VIA with 322, current and up to date. And again, you see it's still an exempt car, but they're still required to display proper safety stickers, make sure they are inspected, things like that. The issue that I've always had when you politely inform someone about something and they go the other way with it, then you've got to make a point of it too. And again, this is T189, it's 1391625. Today, you'll see the fire curb. This vehicle's actually parked in front of it. The other night, it was blocking the fire lane. Also 322 for the registration sticker. And still no sign of the one-eyed or one-lighted bandit for VIA Transit Security. Personally, I hope that it's the vehicle that's deadlined over here and that they took out a 24 instead. But it depends on which officer's working. Again, that's not under my control, and it's usually not really under the officer's control. However, if they come out and they know their vehicle's missing a light, then they need to report it to dispatch and be reassigned to a working, safe vehicle. It doesn't always happen. And there you've got your joint law enforcement center again. I'm going to go ahead and end my video because, again, while I enjoy doing what I do, I'm not going to stand out here all night to make a point that I've already made. I hope those who've watched my video enjoyed it. Understand that this property is non-restricted public access property. So is that parking lot. So is VIA in general. And that you can film in those areas. Now, if you get a criminal trespass warning just for filming, they've infringed on your civil liberties. If you do something else that merits a criminal trespass warning, I can't speak to that. Talk to a legal representative. But unfortunately, again, these officers rely off of past experience and often overstep their authority. And again, when I say I've been in this area, I've extensively filmed via Metropolitan Security transit officers over the last 4 months. I've rarely had any issues. Recently, there have been a lot more issues, and because of that, I'm going to up my game as well. Daytime guys today were completely cool, except for them telling me that I had to contact Rachel Benavides to get permission to do what they already knew I had permission to do. And again, that's her business card here in my hand. Anyone else who wants to publicly audit, who has any questions or would like a copy of that email just for their own safety, if they come out to photograph on non-restricted VIA property, feel free to contact me on my channel. I'll be more than happy to share that email with you. Again, what I do is not about cop bashing, but sometimes cops need to be bashed. It's not anti-police, it's not pro-police. Yes, I give kudos to the police when they do the right thing. And at the same time, I'm unrepentant when I say I will go out and tell an officer they're full of shit. Sgt Poore today was polite with me. After I got off camera with him, we spoke for about 40 minutes. I told him, I said, I'm going to turn off my camera, we can speak. I let him know about several dozen issues with VIA. And he's like, I'm going to check on that officer Brighton you or whatever. And I'm like, see, if I wanted to make that a complaint, I would have. But it's really, for me, that's a pseudo issue. There's a line that officers cross that I will actually go down and file a complaint on. And there's the middle ground where, you go, it is what it is. For me, I know that officer was out of line. She knows she's out of line. And documenting it and publicizing it, people go, oh, well, what's the point of publicizing it if you're not going to make a complaint? It's about public shaming sometimes. Yes, it is. If you act inappropriately as a public servant, we have no recourse. A complaint isn't going to do a damn thing. But putting you out on YouTube or to let the public know you're doing this and it's inappropriate and nothing's going to happen about it, but you got called out on it, maybe, just maybe, one or two officers will look at that and go, hey, we shouldn't be doing that in the future. I don't want to be the next YouTube star. You got this officer, he's a peace officer. Again, their uniforms are different. The dark uniforms are peace officers with the state of Texas, and transit security are wearing a gray shirt. For those of you who don't know, a peace officer has the authority to enforce the law throughout the state of Texas. So it's not just on VIA's property. That's an unfortunate thing that often is confused. I even give, I made a comment at one point, SAIC has no jurisdiction off their property, fuck them. And that's the truth. They don't have jurisdiction, but if they see you violating a law off the property, a peace officer can still arrest you for that. The difference, again, if there's security here, if you're not on their property, their security has absolutely no authority or jurisdiction, whereas peace officers do have that authority and jurisdiction. So, thought I was going to end this live, but I'll come up and I'll speak with this officer. Probably not happy with me approaching, but hey, you know what? Passing behind you, officer. Not much. Just making sure I don't startle you. How you doing this evening?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing good. So, Officer Esquivil?
Yes, sir. Yeah. You need anything, sir?
Yeah, I was going to discuss something, but if you're busy, go ahead. I can catch you later. I'm out here all the time.
Do you need a crime report or anything?
No, it's nothing urgent right now. It's just a formal letting you know. Earlier, Sgt Poore, you know who he is? He gave me this business card and told me I needed to contact her to get permission to film here, which we both know is not true. But I did contact her, and she told me directly I can film in any non-secure area. I'm just making sure you're aware of that in case other misinformation was given.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Officer Esquivil. So again, for me, it's about educating officers, not pushing issues, not trying to be rude or whatever. If he had something else to attend to, great, he can go do that. For me, every peace officer who comes out here that I've witnessed, I will document that. I will let them know what I was told, what I've done, and that I'm allowed to do what I'm doing. Because again, when one officer hears something or says, oh, well, I heard this sergeant say he had to do this, they assume it to be the truth, and then bad things happen down the road. Hey guys, I'm going to end this live stream. Probably won't upload for a long time based off my limited experience with that. But if you enjoyed it, please like and share. Got lots of other videos out there. You guys be safe. Always film the police.